So get this. I literally just destroyed the best relationship I've had in years with one stupid comment about my ex being taller. I mean, who does that? Apparently me. I'm Macy, 32, and I'm still trying to figure out how everything went so wrong. It all started 4 months ago when I met Troy at my friend Amber's housewarming party. I wasn't looking for anything serious. I was still getting over my breakup with Devin after 2 intense years together. Troy walked up to me with this gentle smile that didn't scream, trying too hard like most guys at parties. We talked all night about everything, from our weird childhood memories to our favorite pizza toppings. He's a pepperoni purist, I'm a supreme girl all the way. I gave him my number, expecting the usual game of who texts first. But he messaged me the next morning with a picture of a coffee shop he thought I'd like. No pickup lines, no weird attempts at being smooth, just genuine interest. It was different. I agreed to meet him there that weekend, telling myself it was just coffee, no big deal. When I walked into the coffee shop, I immediately noticed how Troy stood up when he saw me. This small, old-fashioned gesture that Devin would have laughed at, but somehow felt nice coming from Troy. He remembered exactly how I took my coffee from our conversation at the party. The date lasted 3 hours, and for brief moments, I actually forgot about Devin. "I'd really like to see you again," Troy said as he walked me to my car. No games, no pretending to be busy. His honesty was refreshing after Devin's hot and cold routine I'd gotten so used to. I found myself saying yes before even thinking about it. Our relationship progressed quickly from there. Troy worked at an office downtown, nothing flashy, but he seemed satisfied with it. I kept my job at a retail store, which Troy never looked down on like Devin sometimes did. Troy planned thoughtful dates, remembered little details about things I liked, and always texted back within minutes. He was consistent, which was the opposite of what I'd had with Devin. But even as Troy was doing everything right, I kept comparing him to Devin in my head. I'd catch myself thinking things like, Devin would have ordered the expensive wine, or Devin's shoulders filled out his shirts better. I never said these things out loud. I'm not completely terrible, but the thoughts were constant. One night, as we were cuddling on my couch watching a movie, Troy asked about my past relationships. I gave him the sanitized version of my history with Devin, leaving out how toxic it actually was and instead highlighting the exciting parts. "We traveled a lot," I said, conveniently omitting how Devin would ruin most trips with his mood swings. "He was really spontaneous," I added, not mentioning how that spontaneity usually meant canceling plans last minute or showing up at my apartment at 2 a.m. expecting me to be available. "Sounds like he was an interesting guy," Troy said, his voice careful. I could tell he was trying to be supportive while hiding his insecurity. Something about his uncertainty made me want to reassure him, but also, I don't know, test him. So I showed him a picture of Devin and me in Cancun that I still had on my phone. Why did I still have that picture? I knew exactly why. "Yeah, we had some good times," I said, watching Troy's face as he nodded politely at the image of my ex, taller, more conventionally handsome, with that confident smirk that had initially drawn me in. Troy didn't say anything negative, just hugged me closer and changed the subject. His maturity made me feel both relieved and slightly disappointed. Part of me wanted him to be jealous. What Troy didn't know was that I had a Finsta account just to keep tabs on Devin. I'd scroll through it late at night after Troy fell asleep next to me. I had a box of clothes in the back of my closet that reminded me of nights out with Devin that I couldn't bring myself to wear or throw away. I'd occasionally text Devin's sister Vanessa to check in, but really to gather intel on what he was doing. I was building something real with Troy while keeping one foot firmly in my past. The weeks went by, and Troy only got sweeter. He'd bring me my favorite snacks when I was having a bad day at work. He remembered offhand comments I made about books I wanted to read and would surprise me with them. He was putting in all this effort while I was, well, settling. That's what Amber called me out on one night over wine at her place. "You're settling for Troy because he's safe," she said bluntly. "I see how you light up when someone mentions Devin. It's not fair to Troy." "I'm not settling," I argued back, the wine making me defensive. "Troy's amazing. He's just different, more stable." "More boring, you mean?" Amber shot back. Admit it, Macy, you missed the drama. I denied it, of course, but later that night I found myself looking at Devon's most recent posts again. He was at a concert I would have loved with people I used to know. I felt that familiar ache of missing out, of missing him, even though logically I knew how bad we were together. As the weeks went on, I got better at hiding my Devon obsession while simultaneously getting worse at actually getting over him. Anytime Troy did something sweet, I'd smile and thank him, but in my head I was running a comparison. Troy brought me flowers? Cute. But Devon once surprised me with concert tickets. Troy cooked dinner? Sweet. But Devon knew all the trendy restaurants. It was exhausting, honestly, being so duplicitous. You're being really quiet tonight, Troy said one evening as we watched TV. Everything okay? What he didn't know was that I'd just seen a post from Vanessa showing Devon at a party with his arm around some girl. I'd been texting Vanessa regularly, pretending to check in as friends when really I was fishing for Devon updates. She probably knew what I was doing but fed me information anyway. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired from work. I curled up against Troy's chest, using his comfort to soothe my jealousy over Devon. How messed up is that? You can talk to me about anything, you know, Troy said, running his fingers through my hair. Even about your ex, if that would help. I froze. Had he somehow figured me out? I looked up at him, trying to read his expression. I know breakups can be hard to get over, he continued carefully, especially long relationships. I just want you to know I'm not the jealous type. If you need to process stuff, I'm here. The irony was suffocating. Here he was, offering me emotional support about getting over Devon when I was actively keeping tabs on him. I should have taken this opportunity to be honest, to admit I was struggling with letting go. Instead, I did what I always did. I gaslit him. That's sweet of you, but I'm totally over Devon, I said with practiced conviction. That relationship was over long before it actually ended. Trust me. Troy nodded, looking relieved but not entirely convinced. Okay, just checking. Sometimes you get this look and I wonder if something's bothering you. What look? I asked defensively. I don't know, just distant. Like you're thinking about something else. Well, I'm not, I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. Sorry, I'm just tired, but I promise I'm 100% present in this relationship. The next day I met Amber for coffee. She took one look at me and said, Spill it. What's wrong? Troy thinks I'm not over Devon, I admitted. Are you? She challenged. I stirred my coffee aggressively. Of course I am, it's been months. Then why are you still checking his Instagram every day? And don't deny it, I see you viewed all his stories. I sighed. It's complicated. He's so nice, Amber. Like, actually genuinely nice. And that's bad because... It's not bad, it's just... boring sometimes. Devon was unpredictable. Exciting. Toxic, Amber corrected. He was toxic, Mace. Remember how you'd call me crying because he stood you up again? Or those exciting fights that left you anxious for days? You've got a good guy now who actually respects you, and you're sabotaging it. I knew she was right, but I wasn't ready to hear it. I'm not sabotaging anything. And honestly, who are you to judge? Your last 3 relationships were train wrecks. Amber recoiled like I'd slapped her. Wow. Okay, tell yourself whatever you need to, but don't ask for my advice if you're going to attack me when I give it. The weekend arrived, and Troy had planned something special for us. He was being mysteriously secretive, just telling me to dress nice. I spent hours getting ready, trying on different outfits, doing and redoing my makeup. I settled on a burgundy dress that I knew looked good on me, one that Devon had never seen. At least I had that small bit of integrity. Troy picked me up at 7, looking more handsome than usual in a blue button-down that brought out his eyes. He held open the car door for me, another one of those old-fashioned gestures that I secretly loved. You look beautiful, he said, with such genuine admiration that I felt a pang of guilt. Thanks, I smiled. You clean up pretty nice yourself. I made reservations at Trento, he said as he drove. Trento was one of the most expensive restaurants in town, way out of Troy's normal budget. I felt a flutter of excitement. This was the kind of place Devon would have taken me to. Immediately, I hated myself for the comparison. What's the occasion? I asked. 4 months together, he said with a shy smile. I know it's not a traditional milestone, but every month with you feels worth celebrating. My heart melted a little. Troy wasn't flashy or dramatic, but he was consistent in showing how much he cared. Why couldn't that be enough for me? When we arrived at the restaurant, Troy had arranged for a corner table with a view of the city. He'd even called ahead to make sure they had my favorite wine. As we settled in, I made a renewed promise to myself to be present, to appreciate this moment and this man without letting ghosts from my past intrude. The dinner started wonderfully. We ordered wine, shared an appetizer, and talked easily about our week. For once, I wasn't thinking about Devin or making comparisons. I was simply enjoying Troy's company, appreciating his kindness and attention. Then, as our main courses arrived, Troy broached a subject I'd been avoiding. "So, have you thought any more about us looking for a place together?" he asked cautiously. The question brought all my doubts rushing back. Moving in together was a big commitment, one that required being fully invested in the relationship. Was I ready for that when I still had unresolved feelings for someone else? "I've been thinking about it," I hedged. "It's just a big step, you know?" Troy nodded. "I know, no pressure really. I love spending time with you, and it seems practical with your lease ending." "Practical," I repeated, the word striking me oddly. Practical wasn't passionate. Practical wasn't exciting. It was responsible, adult, sensible, all the things my relationship with Devin hadn't been. "Is that the wrong word?" Troy asked, noticing my shift in tone. "No, it is practical," I said, taking a large sip of wine. "Very practical." The wine was going to my head, and I found myself thinking more and more about Devin. I checked my phone under the table, an old habit, and saw a new post from him with that same girl. They were at a club, looking happy and carefree, just like we used to be. "Is it about your ex?" Troy asked quietly, catching me looking at my phone. The directness of the question startled me. "What? No, why would you think that?" "I'm not blind, Macy," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "I see how you get when his name comes up. I notice when you're distracted looking at your phone. I've seen you scrolling through his Instagram when you thought I wasn't watching." I felt exposed, caught in a lie I'd been telling us both. "It's not what you think," I said weakly. "Then what is it?" Troy pressed. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you're still hung up on him." The truth was right there, ready to be spoken. I could have been honest, admitted my confusion, asked for patience as I worked through my feelings. Instead, the wine and my defensiveness took over. "Fine," I snapped. "Maybe I do think about him sometimes. Is that a crime? We were together for 2 years. That doesn't just disappear overnight." Troy looked hurt but controlled. "I never said it would. I just need to know where I stand. Am I a rebound? Are you using me to get over him?" "No," I protested too loudly. A few nearby diners glanced our way. I lowered my voice. "No, it's not like that. I care about you, Troy, a lot. But not as much as you cared about him," Troy said, more a statement than a question. "It's different," I said, searching for words that wouldn't hurt him further. "What I had with Devin was intense, passionate, but toxic too. What we have is healthier." "Healthier but boring?" Troy suggested, his expression tightening. "I didn't say that." I backpedaled. "You didn't have to," he said. "I can read between the lines." The conversation was spiraling, and in my panic to fix it, I made everything worse. I reached across the table for his hand. "Look, Devin and I had a different kind of relationship. He was more, outgoing, adventurous, but you're sweet. That's special too." The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. Troy's face fell, and he pulled his hand away from mine. "Sweet," he repeated flatly. "That's what you appreciate about me? That I'm sweet?" "And reliable," I added quickly, "and thoughtful, and—" "Stop." Troy cut me off. "Just stop. I don't need you to list my consolation prize qualities." "That's not what I meant," I insisted, but we both knew it was. Troy took a deep breath, visibly collecting himself. "You know what? I want to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay," I said nervously. "If Devin called you right now and said he wanted you back, what would you do?" The question hit me like a bucket of cold water. I wanted to lie, to reassure Troy that I'd choose him without hesitation. But the alcohol and the tension of the moment pushed me toward a half-truth. "That's not fair," I protested. "It's a hypothetical situation that's never going to happen." "But if it did," Troy pressed, "would you go back to him?" "I don't know," I admitted finally, the words barely audible. "Maybe. I don't know. Troy closed his eyes briefly, as if absorbing a physical blow. When he opened them again, something had changed. The warmth I was used to seeing had been replaced by a cold resolve. "Thank you for being honest," he said, his voice steady but distant. He placed his napkin on the table and signaled for the waiter. "Check, please." "Troy, wait," I said, panic rising. "We should talk about this." "I think you've said enough," he replied. "Actually, no, let me be clear. You just told me that after 4 months together, you're still not over your ex. That if he wanted you back, you'd consider it. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel?" I had no good answer. The waiter arrived with the check, and Troy quickly paid it, not even looking at the amount. "Troy, please," I begged, tears forming in my eyes. "I didn't mean it like that." "How else could you possibly mean it?" he asked, standing up. "I've been giving you everything, Macy. My time, my heart, my full attention, and the whole time I've been competing with a ghost." "It's not a competition," I said weakly. "Clearly," Troy replied, "because I never had a chance, did I?" He turned to leave, and in desperation I blurted out the worst possible thing. "He's taller than you, okay? And more outgoing, and yes, the sex was more exciting, but you're like, sweet. That counts for something, right?" Troy stopped dead in his tracks. The restaurant had gone quiet around us, several diners openly watching our drama unfold. When Troy turned back to me, his eyes were glassy with unshed tears. "No," he said quietly, "it doesn't. Not like this." Without another word, he walked out of the restaurant, leaving me sitting alone at the table, the bracelet he'd given me earlier that evening feeling heavy on my wrist. I sat there in shock for several minutes before gathering my things and hurrying outside. Troy's car was gone. I called an Uber, then tried calling Troy. It went straight to voicemail. I texted him. "I'm sorry, please call me, we need to talk." No response. By the time I got home, I was frantic. I called him again and again, each call going to voicemail. I sent more texts, each more desperate than the last. No response. I checked social media and discovered he'd blocked me on everything: Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. It was as if he'd erased me from his digital life in the span of an hour. In desperation, I texted Amber. "Troy left me at the restaurant. He's not answering. I really messed up." Her reply was swift and unsympathetic. "What did you do?" I explained briefly, downplaying my role, painting it as a misunderstanding. Amber wasn't having it. "You compared him to Devin? To his face? Are you kidding me, Macy? What did you think would happen?" "I need help fixing this," I typed back. "Not a lecture. I don't think this is fixable," she replied bluntly. "You told the guy he's basically your second choice. There's no coming back from that." I threw my phone across the room, furious at her for not taking my side. Then I collapsed on my bed and finally let myself cry. Not just for losing Troy, but for the mess I'd made of everything. The next day, I called in sick to work and spent the morning alternating between trying to reach Troy and checking Devin's social media. The irony wasn't lost on me. Even in this moment of crisis, I was still obsessing over Devin. Around noon, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Troy's roommate. He asked me to tell you to stop calling. He doesn't want to talk to you." That's when it finally hit me. It was really over. Troy, the sweet, caring man who had treated me better than anyone ever had, wanted nothing to do with me anymore. And I had no one to blame but myself. In a moment of clarity, I deleted my fake Instagram account for stalking Devin. I took the box of clothes that reminded me of him and put it in a donation bag. I deleted Vanessa's number from my phone. But these gestures came too late. I had lost something real, because I couldn't let go of something that had never been healthy to begin with. 6 months later, I'm sitting at a coffee shop with a new guy from a dating app. He seems nice enough. Good job, cute smile, listens when I talk. But as the date progresses, I find myself mentally comparing him to both Devin and Troy. My ex was more into fitness, I catch myself thinking. Troy would have asked more questions about my job. I stop myself, recognizing the toxic pattern, but old habits die hard. The truth is, I still haven't learned my lesson. Not really. I'm still defining men by how they measure up to my past. Still looking for someone who combines Devin's excitement with Troy's stability. Last week, I ran into Amber at the grocery store. It was awkward at first. We hadn't spoken much since the Troy incident. But she softened when I apologized for how I'd treated her. "I saw Troy the other day," she mentioned casually as we checked out. He's dating someone new. Seems happy. The news stung more than I expected it to. Good for him, I managed. He deserves it. Yes, he does, Amber agreed, pointedly. As I drove home, I thought about how differently things might have turned out if I'd been honest, with Troy, with myself, about my feelings for Devin. If I'd taken the time to truly get over one relationship before jumping into another. If I'd appreciated what was in front of me instead of idealizing what was behind. I'd like to say I've changed, that I've learned from my mistakes. But the truth is, I'm still working on it, still catching myself making comparisons, still occasionally checking Devin's profiles even though he's now engaged to that girl from the photos. The bracelet Troy gave me sits in my jewelry box, unworn since that night. Sometimes I take it out and remember how his face looked when I made that stupid comment about my ex being taller, but him being sweet. In those moments, I feel the full weight of what I lost because I couldn't let go of what was already gone.